Looking doesn't mean that you can't see. Nothing here means anything to me, 'cause I lay down deep in the knowledge nothing is impossible.
Hi, my name's Nigel and welcome to my podcast, Songs Nobody Asked Me For. I did one of these a couple of days ago and I thought let's be really into it and do one again. But I was just, before I came on, and I just, someone from the press had been in touch. That sounds really big, but that's great, it's from a Plymouth sort of online paper and maybe interested in meeting up to chat about this. I'm really pleased about that, but it made me think, when people say, check out the podcast, I think, maybe I should check out the podcast and go back. And I've just been looking at my first couple of episodes and I feel really pleased because on the one hand, I think I have stayed consistently amateurish, really, which, or authentic, depending on which way you want to look at it. Authentically amateurish maybe is the answer. But I actually realised as well that I think I've relaxed into this, and as I watch later episodes, I realise I'm a little bit more together and with it and organised, and it's better in here. The first couple I'm trying to do them in my front room. There's a funny red light flashing around the place. I've got clicking going on in the background for some reason, and I'm mumbling away. Whereas having the different sound system, being in here, I feel more confident with it really. So the last episode I know, because it's almost like a little two-parter, but not really, was around writer's block. And I was a bit clever in that because I kind of used the episode to play around with a piece of music I was working on, a little hook, a little riff, and from that developed the semblance of a song. It's not got the structure yet. There's three parts of a song. And from that, I did a sort of little demo that I've sent to Tim, the drummer, to say, look, could you do something behind this? I put a drum machine on it, which I don't always do, but sometimes that gives me a little bit of inspiration or feel. And then I also sent it to John. John really liked it, and that makes a big difference to me. I was talking about that last time, wasn't I? And so I spoke to him yesterday, and he's working on it. So in the last episode, what I did was I used that bit of music then for the beginning and the end. And I'm hoping you kind of got that obviously there I am working on an idea with writer's block. I got my guitar, I don't like doing that, on this, and I played it to you, and from that I was able to use the first demo of it for that episode. And from that I feel like that block has lifted a little bit. So when I had sort of 20 minutes today, I was just thinking to myself, well, maybe the logical next thing to talk about is what it's like not to have writer's block, really. And maybe it's not as two-dimensional as that, is it? You have it or you don't have it. Nothing is like that in the world. I'm not down or I'm up. I'm not good or I'm bad. Everything is on a continuum. We know this for things like, autistic spectrum, but mood is on a spectrum, and creativity is on a spectrum, and there are times when I'm more or less. So when I say I haven't got writer's block, I'd say I was more able to think about writing at the moment and more into it as a vibe and a thing. And I think that's what's different. But it comes from that little moment that you saw with me, in which when I knew I was going to do an episode, I thought, I'm going to try and do about writer's block, and then started playing my guitar a lot, which is often how it works, because I'll have not played my guitar and make myself do it. I have to make myself do it. It's like making yourself exercise again when you haven't exercised, when you probably should do. You don't want to do it, after Christmas maybe, and you make yourself go to the gym, and sometimes getting back into the guitar is like that. Otherwise what I do is I go to the band practices, and that's the only time I play, and that's once a week. Once a week we have a band practice. We're having a couple of gigs a month at the moment. That's going well. It kind of feels like that's a good enough ticking over stuff, but it's not enough if you're going to be writing. Sort of just keep the camera there. It's not enough if you're going to be writing and creating. You have to do more. And also, obviously my playing improves the more I practice at home and I try and keep up with stuff and do stuff, So that all sits there, It's pretty reasonable, really. But because I was writing about writer's block, I was thinking about that. Then I started playing, and then that little hook came up, and then I was able to bring that into that session. and into that recording, and then from there I was playing it and playing, because that's one of the things that happens once you start getting the buzz of creativity. It's slightly obsessive. It's not always. There's some songs I write, I think it's okay, but with that little riff, and it's the bit I played. There's a good ding ding ding, right, good ding 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 ding. That bit in particular, I really like that hook, and I just kind of the vibe of it, the feel of it. And I'm thinking, yeah, I like this. I like this vibe, and so I play it and play it and play it, and then I don't. I haven't played it for a few days, but the guitar is back in my arms. Not here, not this moment, but the guitar is back in my arms. And then what happens is I'm looking for new chords, and I found this little chord sequence, which is not a usual chord sequence for me, if that makes sense. Now I feel I should play it to you. It doesn't feel right if I don't, does it? We're talking about creativity. Right, I'm going to get the guitar. Here we go. Just been for a very, very long bike ride for me, which I haven't done for ages, and I'm a little bit stiff. So, here we are. I'm going to jiggle my chair around because I wasn't going to do this. Now, where were we? I'm starting here. No, I'm not. Do you know, then I've got to remember the bloody thing, haven't I? I know it goes to the... Yes. That's the chorus. And that's it. And that's all I have, It doesn't really matter at the moment. So that's an example of a different type of creation for me. So we've got creation number one, which is the other song I was playing you, in which I get a riff and then a little tune comes and I'm there, and then I'm looking for structure and I'm thinking, now this one, I can't, it's just a little riff. And that may mean it won't go anywhere, but I can't decide yet. I mean, I played it in a little sort of upbeaty way. I can imagine it as a slow song. I can imagine it as I don't really know. So I can't decide the rhythm in which I want to play it. And I have this old drum machine, which is, where are we? I think it's a Yamaha. It's a Boss, is it? A Boss. I've got to put my glasses on to read it now. That's how long ago it is since I've looked. It's a Boss. It's a Dr. Rhythm. Dr. Rhythm. It's very 1980s, 90s, I think. Well, probably 1990s. But it's great. It's got a little bit of paint on the front of it here. A bit of a stain, you can see. But it's got, maybe 40 rhythms, set rhythms. I tend to use the set rhythms these days, and 40 fills. So the first, I don't know, number one will be a pattern, boom chink, and number two will be dum ba-dum bum. It'll be the sort of the fill that goes with it. So half of it's these patterns, and what I'll sometimes do, which is what I did with that riff, is I'll find something that I think fits what's in my head, and that's great when I find that. A little bit of a sort of not a straight beat, but just a little bit of a funk beat with it, and that's got that, and that's great, and that was enough to add to the background of that. Now with this song, and I've done this before with other songs, I've gone through every single rhythm and sort of tried to play the song with that rhythm, and I've not come across anything I'm settled with yet, really. And also I have no tuner. I can't think of anything that I might develop as a melody over it. So I think that's also something to work on. But that's good, but I don't mind it. So what I'm creating and describing to you there is a process of creativity of different types, but means that I'm being creative again. And when I'm being creative, I'm a happy bunny, mostly, So, I mean, what does it mean to not have writer's block? I think it's like getting fresh air again. It's like, the sun coming out and feeling like you're walking in the countryside, and it's that sort of vital part of you. And generally, I do feel, it feels a bit corny really, but I feel like it leaves me with a little skip in my step and makes me feel good, really. But I don't know, as I sit and I think about it, it drives me into that place where I've been, looking back. When I very first did I think it was episode number 3 or number 4, about why do I write? And I really I remember I spent such a lot of time thinking about that as a dilemma and a question. Why did I end up being someone who wrote? Why do I still write? Why does that... and how come some people went down that path and others went down the path of becoming amazing guitarists, or I talked about this, or being able to recreate what someone else did, and amazingly much better than I could ever do, and that they felt like different paths that could cross over, and etc. etc. We won't go back through that, but it makes me think, well, why do I create these things? And I need to do it. I think, again, I think his name was Eddie from Factor 50 talked about that, how annoying it was that he kind of needed to do it. And it's just kind of, you need to do it. And then when you need to do it, I think also at some level, you need a forum in which to present it. Not necessarily, I guess. And I have had long periods of my life when I haven't. Well, not long, actually, no. Some periods of my life. And when you consider that some of those have been 6 months, a year, possibly 2 years, that is a long time. But if I rack up hold of my life as a person from 18 onwards, 17 onwards, from 17, I've generally speaking, with a few years out, had a forum or a space in which to present music. Being at university being one where I didn't really, those first 3 years in Plymouth, I didn't meet anybody, and I was still writing, but I was writing and stacking stuff in my room, and the journey of that was then moving back to London, going over to Pabs and having a couple of those songs that I thought might work well, and thank goodness I picked the right ones, because Pav really liked them, we jammed on them, they started hooking out really well, and one was called Under the Hammer, and we did a very upbeat version of that one. I remember this whole sort of like dig-a-dig-a-ding, ding, 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 ding. I'm just thinking, wow, and Pab coming in with a bass, and it all sounds very obvious, but you know, at the time it was like, wow, that's like a proper song. I can do that, you know. I think I've talked about that, but that period before was a time when I was still writing, but I wasn't enjoying writing, and I wonder whether some of it is, I don't know. Some people seem to be able to, I go back to art, you know, some people seem to be able to just paint for themselves and write poetry for themselves. And maybe I need some sort of a mirror up against it. I need a mirror up against the song. And there's something about that idea that if I write something and it's, that mirror reflects it back as something people are into or something people dance to or something people are moving around to, then that seems to be very useful. And that's part of that creative buzz. And it's so fragile as a process, you know, because I guess if I'd written this song that I showed you in the last time, and I haven't finished it yet by any means, and that's unusual because I've got a little, I think I said on the last one, I'm going to try and see whether just jamming with the guys for a while takes it in a different direction or something, which I've not really done before. But if John had said, I really don't like this, I think it's dull, or Tim had said, oh, I don't really think I can play this, or this isn't going to, you know, I can't really find anything for it, I might have gone back into writer's block, because I might have got a little bit despondent, because there's a bit of you that starts to think, you know, we were trying to get those 2 new songs, I've talked about this, we had 2 new songs and they just weren't working, and then John did a bass line and we all jammed it, well they all jammed around it, and I just took it and I wrote the simplest song really in a way, but works really well. But there's a little bit of a worry in that, just thinking, oh right, it's my ability to bring a song to the band gone. And you know, I'm a great adapter, I would adapt to that, but it is also a part of who I am and my role and, you know, my ego, and all of these things sit within this. So I think I need that. But I love the idea that there were other ways we'd produce songs, but it meant it's been a long period of time without me writing a song. And I say long as a few months, you know, 3, 4, 5 months of nothing new coming forward that I've written or that I've been into, and or that I've really been that happy with, you know, because the 2 songs I was bringing, I think one of them was really good, but the other it was okay, you know. So I think we've got all this stuff around that's kind of gets in the way or makes things a bit difficult. And that's okay, I don't mind that. But it has the potential to snuff out creativity and to make you feel blocked again. So not writer's block would involve a number of factors really, I think, that come together to make you feel free in what you're doing and make you feel a little more liberated in the idea of what you're doing and how you're doing it, really, I think. And that feels important. It feels important that that's part of a process there, really, I think. Yeah. I was almost moving back onto thinking about why I write, really, because I think I still have that question of why do I need that? And is there some sort of, I don't know, ego validation within it? Something that means I feel a need to be getting the validation from it. I've heard more and more songwriters talk about that idea of finding a voice. You know, various people in interviews on podcasts or on artists, you know, well known, not well known. That idea of finding a way to express yourself as a person that's not very good at expressing yourself. You know, and I think that's me, because I'm hugely articulate at some level, very articulate. I can have meetings, I can do therapy, I can write songs, but I think when I try to talk on an emotional level, I'm very open for it. Can be quite good at it, but I can also be bloody awful at it. And as a bloke, I think probably trained from childhood to sort of keep those feelings to myself. And I've fought against that, and so it's not a natural process for me not to do that. So it's tricky, you know. Yeah, I don't know how long I've talked for. I'm going to pause a minute because I keep hearing my doors banging. This always happens whenever I'm here on my own. It's very annoying. I'll be back. And the amount of time it never is anything. I don't think there was anything. I imagine things. I don't know whether that's a sort of bit of tinnitus that's coming over age and being around loud music and stuff like that. But I do hear a lot of things. My wife gets really frustrated sometimes that I think when she's speaking to me I don't hear her, and when she's not speaking sometimes I say, "Oh, did you say something?" She'll say, "No, I didn't say anything." But I know that happens to me a lot, you know. What's going on? Bloody mad me. I don't know. It feels like I feel optimistic when I'm writing. I feel troubled in other ways, I'm trying to negotiate with the pub that ran our first event around how much I might contribute to their payment for doing that. Let's put it that way, because I want to be positive about that. So I'm looking at whether I can afford to contribute a little bit of money to that, so that I would never charge artists to come and do the event, because that just is complete anathema to me, and I'm not ever going to do that, because I'm completely against people having to pay to play, let alone the idea. I don't really like the idea that we're doing something where people don't get any money, and I will think about that. I've talked before possibly about the idea of having a whip round, you know, type of passing the hat round type of thing, which I'd like to do, but I've got to get the event established first of all, I think. But you know, I'm worried a bit about that. I'm worried about the second one, trying to work out how that's going to work already, even though it's only May and that's not till October. We have a sort of gig I kind of agreed we'd do in August, which I now can't do. I need to contact him. I'm trying to get some advice from Plymouth Culture about how I make the most of the promotion or the event, and how I promote the results of that event. You know, and I've not heard back from them yet, but that's fine. They're busy people, and yeah, just trying to make little connections again and do stuff and think about up and coming gigs. And then we haven't practiced for 2 weeks, and then sometimes that brings in little question marks like, is everybody okay, and what's working, what's not, and all this stuff. So I get very neurotic again if I'm not careful. So I want to just enjoy the fact that at the moment I've started writing again, and that feels really good. Yeah, other than, as I say, it being as significant as eating, I can't really think how else to describe it as a process, really. It is, for me, hard work, though. And I know that some of the people I've interviewed on the podcast seem to find it fairly straightforward, and I don't. And I don't mind that. I don't mind the angst that I have with it, and the complexities of it, and knowing that it's actually a job you have to work really hard on. I don't mind that. But I do wonder how some people manage to look like, at least, it's fairly straightforward for them, really. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just one of those things people say and it's not really true. I don't know. Maybe it is. Okay, I have things I need to go and do. So I will leave you. Next Wednesday I'm doing an interview, first one at Cafe Momus. I'm really pleased they've given me the space to let me use one of their rooms to do face-to-face interviewing. Really excited about that. I'm meeting Izzy from, I can never remember their name, Queen Izzard, Queen Izzard's Bird Blizzard, I think they're called, and I'm really excited to meet them and catch up with them and find out a bit of some of their history. They're very young, and they're not actually got much of a social presence at all, which I kind of like and I'm interested about. And I don't know whether that's a conscious thing or whether they've just not been together long enough to have done that, but looking forward to meeting them. And then just got my feelers out for a couple of the other bands that said they wanted to be involved, to sort of touch base and say, you know, when could we do this, you know, and set in some dates. So I'm pleased about that. I need another interview. You know, Factor 50 that you would have now seen is the last interview I have at this point, so I haven't got anybody else. So looking forward to doing this one next week, because we'll have 3 or 4 episodes here before I do another interview, and then I'm hoping to get a nice run of alternate or every third type of one being interviews, really. I've got a couple of online ones to set up as well. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. So as I always say, do subscribe, to follow, like, please do that stuff. Really useful to me. Just say that again, because obviously it it helps me with algorithms and where the podcast gets seen and all that sort of stuff. Tell people about it. Follow the band, hashtag Music the Curve. I always say that. A shameless promotion at the end of every podcast, but why not, eh? If you can't promote your own band at the end of your own podcast, what can you do? Thanks for your time, and yeah, I'll look forward to seeing you next week.
When we were younger, passion burned through the night. Nothing was impossible. So watch out, watch out, watch out.